Smarterfan. Hey, everybody, welcome to another segment of Smarterfan Podcast, where we bring you behind the veil of sports, business, and life. I'm Joe. This is Barry. How you doing, Barry?
Well, I'm doing all right. I'm recovering from the Super Bowl party, recovering by
Mm-hmm.
the Super Bowl play-by-play. I'm recuperating and
Mm-hmm.
analyzing, so I'm excited about tonight. Lot to say,
Mm-hmm.
lot to analyze, and
Definitely.
I love Kendrick's halftime show. Well done,
Mm.
Kendrick Lamar. Woo, that boy set it off. Set it off.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. He
heard.
set it off. Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
now
So how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Just fine.
Okay. Well, I see you upright, so that's good. You survived the Super Bowl, so you're upright. That's good.
Hey, every day above ground is a good day.
There you go. There you go. There you go. What you got tonight?
Okay. So before we jump into Super Bowl 59, I want to give a brief synopsis of how these two teams got to where they are. Okay. Now, the Eagles, they won three championships before the Super Bowl era 48, 49, and 60. And this was their fifth Super Bowl appearance. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay.
their first was in 80 with Ron Jaworski against the Raiders.
Hmm.
Then it was Donovan McNabb, then it was Foles, and then Hertz was here for the last two. So now the Chiefs, they solidified the AFL by beating the Vikings in Super Bowl IV,
Hmm.
and thus ushering in the merger between the two leagues. Now this was their seventh Super Bowl appearance,
Hmm.
third most behind the Niners, Broncos, Cowboys, and Steelers, who are all tied with 8. And of
Hmm.
course, New England leads with 11. So now the game itself, turnovers, turnovers, turnovers.
Simple
They
as
will
that.
they will get you every time. And that offensive line of Kansas City's, they had no answers for that swarming defense. I mean, Mahomes, he had happy feet all night.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I mean the game started off with a controversial play between um what's his name?
Duffy.
McDuffie. Yeah, McDuffie and AJ Brown. I mean, that was a ticky-tacky call if you ask me.
Hmm.
I didn't think he really did anything, but nonetheless, you
He
know,
did so much of nothing. The guy didn't even fall down.
yeah, So,
So
now
yeah.
for the life of me, I cannot understand how a professional football player cannot know where the ball is lined up. How do you line up in the neutral zone?
That is, I'd be surprised if he's there next year because you can kind of make an excuse for an edge rusher. But when you're down in the nose position and the ball's right in front of you, that's just
Yeah,
lack of focus.
you know?
That's just simply lack of focus. You can look yourself and realize you're ahead of your guys. But if you're
Yeah.
down on the nose, it's just lack of discipline. And that lack of discipline pretty much showed up the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
saw a lot of guys on and I get it, on the Chiefs defensive line. They'd make a play and jumping up and down. But I said, you guys have not, who's your leader?
Yeah.
You got to, at some point, you got to say, well, when are we going to, they played the run tough. I'll give you that. But
Yeah.
at some point, you got to get the ball. Our offense is struggling. So we got to not only make a play, we got to get the ball back
Yeah.
so our guys can get more. this is the stuff, and that's why I saw Spaz spazzing out on the sideline
Hmm.
because their mental discipline started to break down. But there's no, I just really wonder where is the leadership, and
Yeah.
they need a vet or somebody because it's just not. It showed. It
Yeah.
showed. It showed. It showed on the offensive line and the defensive line, and that's where the game is won, and that's what you
Mm.
saw.
Yep. Right in the trenches. And I they kept saying how McDuffie was this all pro DB, but he kept getting torched all night.
Well, you're gonna get torched if you're playing single high coverage. The front got to do what they do because you're
Yeah.
out on an island.
Hmm.
So you could be Revis, you could be prime time. Prime time didn't break up every pass to Jerry Rice. Sometimes he got torched, but
Yeah.
then he also torched you. But if you don't have it going up front, you can't cover a receiver forever. That's why you saw those amazing plays with Lamar. Them
Mm.
guy, you know what I'm saying? You down in your position. You know what he's gonna run, right? And then Lamar starts moving. Now you got to
Yeah.
chase him off, bro. That's
Yeah.
why if it don't happen up front, and I saw the one thing that they needed to do that they didn't do consistently enough is make Hurts throw. Make
Right.
him throw in the tight windows, but you can't do that if you can't get to him.
Hmm.
Because the more time he has, the more patient he can be and make a better throw. And I knew
Yeah.
right then. I said, Spags, I don't, yeah,
Yeah.
mhm, uh,
Well, all I can say is congratulations to the Eagles. They
yeah,
won
yeah,
soundly.
yeah. I guess I'll wait till you finish. Give you my 2 cents.
Well, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think the most impressive thing to me is what and what's not being said is Jalen Hurts because I remember it very well, and
Hmm.
AJ Brown draft time were not considered that impressive to draft.
Hmm.
Keep forgetting that.
Yeah. Well.
And somebody said to me, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Go look at the tape. Go look at where they got drafted. Go look at all those who were drafted ahead of them. Most of them are not in the league. Most of them you don't even know.
Mm. Yeah.
The quarterback's been there twice to the show and wasn't thought of much. AJ wasn't thought of very much. That's why
Hmm.
he left Tennessee. So
Hmm.
again, what is my always famous mantra? Coaching, great coaching makes great players greater.
That's right. That's right. Speaking of coaching,
I rest
what's
my case.
what's Coach Prime up to?
Well, Coach Prime, I could say a lot about Coach Prime, but I think probably the most impressive thing that he did is doing about fathers, particularly black fathers, LeVar Ball, him, and other fathers who are standing in the gap and being fathers to their kids, and how he's forcing people to change the narrative. We've always been
Mm.
told, like black fathers aren't around, black fathers are not involved. And
Right.
that myth,
Yeah.
which has always been a myth, is being exploded. And Prime is taking it on with because it's a great story. I
Hmm.
mean, you gotta think about it. And I mean, I've been catching a lot of LeVar stuff with
Hmm.
his boys, and you gotta say this to yourself at this point. He was right. Now,
Yeah.
the question on the table is eh, with all these, let's put it this way, with all these franchises, basketball franchises under 500, why
Hmm.
wouldn't I say, you know what? I need Lonzo and I need Jello, and let's see what happens.
Mm.
We
Yeah.
already we already 500. So obviously, whatever we doing ain't working. So if
Right.
I was
Yeah.
Charlotte, I'm like, I need Lonzo, Jello. I need you to get in shape, and I want to see
Mm.
if this can happen. Because the bottom line is, I've done it the other way, and this is no slight on Michael Jordan, but we haven't been able to win that way, right?
Mm,
So now we had LaMelo, he balling out. His brother's back from injury. So what about if we put 1, 2, and 3 on the court with a 4 and 5, and let's go get it. Let's see if we. What do we have to lose? We 500 anyway,
right. Yeah.
and it's going to be a show because obviously they can play, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is where I always say organizations determine their fate, right? And I said,
Mm,
somebody said that Lucas situation. Well, I won't get ahead of myself. So Prime being a black father, being involved, standing in for his kids, is reverberating so strong because it's blowing people's myths. It's also
yeah.
waking up many of our folks who are like, stop the cap. Because a lot of fathers are not involved, not because they don't want to be, is because they tired of fighting with the mother. That's black,
Mm.
white, or Asian, or whatever. They tired of that. They just want their
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
When is somebody gonna talk about that? And she getting the money. So let's talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
You getting the money. You can't get access to your own kids, right? And that old craziness. I just got a report this weekend. Broke. It still hurt my heart. A Nigerian brother, 3
Hmm.
kids, ends up in court. Judge puts on him $15,000 a month in child support.
Damn.
That don't even make any logical sense.
Mm,
What child need that much child support? Come on.
mm,
Even the child under your house. It don't even make no sense.
mm,
It
mm.
doesn't even make any sense. And guess what the brother ended up doing?
What?
Taking his own life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
See.
stuff happens more than people really realize. Guys living on because they can't afford guys living under bridges. And I'm not talking about indigent people, Joe. I'm
Mm,
talking about fathers who are working
yeah.
and having to live in their truck, firemen, policemen, military people who, because of this foolishness, have to live in a truck or on somebody's couch and are barely living because of this
Mm,
child support. Now, am I saying you shouldn't
yeah.
support your kids? No, but there's a gross imbalance of what's going on here.
Mm,
It's terrible that the
yeah.
guy. So now these kids don't have a father. They're traumatized for the rest of their life
Yep.
because some judge and some bitter woman, unfortunately,
Hmm.
allowed this to go down. Not for the betterment of the children. How are the children being bettered by this? They're
It's,
not.
it's never about the kids.
It's never about the kids. So they've got a big zero out of this whole thing. Basically destroyed this family.
Mm, yeah.
So anyway,
Yep.
so I'm just proud of how Coach Prime, LeVar, and there's another gentleman advocating for their kids like anybody else and showing people like, what are y'all talking about? Black fathers love their kids. Like
Yeah.
any, it's very hard. I could tell you, I haven't been on the planet that long, but I have not met. You're a man, I'm a man. I haven't met many guys who've ever said they hated their kids
Mm,
or they didn't want
yeah.
to be there for their kids.
Right. Yeah. Nah.
I,
Nah.
it's very it's it doesn't really exist. I mean, there's some indigent guys out there. Don't get me wrong, and there's some guys who shouldn't have access to their kids. I'm not saying that, but the
Right.
percentage is single digit. Most fathers want to see their kids thrive, want
Yeah.
to see their kids be successful, want to see their kids live to their full potential. That's why a lot of the science that's coming out now that a child does better with 2 parents or with his father
Mm,
as
mm,
opposed to being with their mother because the father sets clear structure for the boy or girl child with clear outcomes. They're not manipulated,
right.
not
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
manipulated. It's not high when it's no. Dad tends to be consistent. Girl, listen to this. The statistics say girls do better, have higher self-esteem, and are more focused.
Mm, Yeah.
living with their father or mother and father. But with
Yeah.
the mother, they don't fare well. Early pregnancy, truancy, delinquency. That's not me saying it. That's the science, the research.
Hmm.
So enough of that, my friend. So I salute Coach Prime and LeVar and the many other fathers who are doing an awesome job
Mhm.
supporting their kids and helping their kids live up to their full potential.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, speaking of another coach, I want to talk about Bill Walsh.
The Walsh.
Yeah, yeah. Now, he played quarterback at the College of San Mateo for 2 years,
Mm,
and then he transferred to San Jose State. Now, he played tight end and defensive end. He was also a Golden Gloves boxer.
wow.
Yeah, and he was on the boxing team when he was in the Army for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now, he was an assistant coach at University of California, Berkeley under Marv Levy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then he did a stint at Stanford. Now, he started his pro career in 66 under the tutelage of Al Davis and Sid Gilman of the Raiders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's where he learned the vertical passing game. So,
Oh,
he had a lot of good teachers. He did a stint in the CFL as a head coach before becoming the wide receivers coach for the Bengals under Paul Brown.
okay. That's what I
Now,
was listening for.
yeah, this is where he developed the philosophy for the West Coast offense. Now, this
Okay.
is this is crazy. Now, after leaving the Bengals, he learned that he had plenty of coaching opportunities, but Brown discouraged any of these teams from hiring him. But
Yeah.
unbeknownst to him,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. So in '79, he took the Niners as the head coach. He took over the Niners as the head coach, and he took Joe Montana in the '79 draft. Now,
Yeah.
what's interesting about that is he looked at Phil Simms first,
Hmm.
and then he took Montana. And 2 years later, they'd become a dominant force in the NFC West. Winning
Hmm.
3 Super Bowls in his tenure,
Yeah.
and he drafted Hall of Famers Charles Haley, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, and Steve Young.
Hmm.
So now, after winning his last Super Bowl, he resigned as head coach, which he said he later regretted
Mm.
because he said he left too soon.
Hmm.
So, you know, now in my opinion, him and Tom Landry were the last of the innovators because,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
I can
know,
see that.
yeah, Landry had the 4-3 defense, which is still being used today. And Walsh's West Coast offense is being used in some way, shape, or form still to this day.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and not too many. There are not too many coaches right now that have really, added to the game like these two.
No.
You know,
Then because you got a copycat, everyone's a copycat. I
yeah,
keep trying to
exactly.
tell you, there's a lot of lazy, selfish, stupid coaching going on in all these
Hmm.
sports. And
Yeah,
they're just sitting back like, well, you're the talent. I paid you all the money. Do what you do. And that's not how you develop championships.
yeah,
And one of
yeah.
my prime objectives are what went down with the Marlins. When the Marlins had that team, there's no reason that they shouldn't have been able to. And I thought when they brought Jeter in, they brought him in to do that.
Right.
But you get to find out a lot of people don't want to win. The
Yeah.
money's flowing, they don't want to work, and they just, whatever. And in 4 or 5 years, what did Jeter say? It's time for me to leave.
That's right.
Because
That's right.
you all are really not serious about winning. Even
Yeah.
you got to coach. You got to be involved. But what happens a lot of times, people get that threshold, brother, where they get that what they call it, that FU money, and they don't want to pay the price anymore. They don't want to make the sacrifice anymore, and they hit their number, and it takes
Yeah.
something special to be a champion over and over and over. It's not it's not for everybody.
No, not
It's
at
not
all.
for everybody. There's
Not
a
at all.
reason. There's always a reason why there's always a bottom 500
Yeah. Yeah.
in every sport,
Yep.
which makes absolutely no sense because you were able to draft great players. Look at Cleveland. There's no reason Cleveland should be with Cleveland.
Mm. Well,
Anyhow,
that's definitely a true statement right there. So taking care of your chickens.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, my one of my favorite is Marshawn Lynch. He keeps it so real, it's not even funny.
Mm-hmm.
So he was telling a story, and I wanted to just, I said it just made so much sense. Whereby he's really revealing, because people are like, well, how did Buffalo end up giving him away? Well, Buffalo has some, like everywhere else, you talked about walking into a bar and didn't really know what a Confederate flag was. And so
Mm.
he's trying to get a drink and he kind of realizes, oh, this ain't for black people. This is just white only bar. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, every once in a while you hear these stories coming out of Buffalo where either the police or, the community, some people in the community are not very welcoming. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
that's not to say that there aren't, but he just has some funny stories talking about being pulled over by the cop after leaving the game, and like the officer, like you could see, because he was conflicted and wanted to ask for his autograph, but wanted to give him a ticket at the same time for some bogus foolishness. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it was really hilarious. And then he was talking about, when he got there, people didn't know, like, is he a gangbanger? Is he a thug? It's like, no, I'm a football player. That's why you drafted me here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just really weird. You know what I mean? It's just really weird, the stuff that goes on. But I
Yeah.
think the most powerful story he talked about is, I think he had a rookie symposium
Mm-hmm.
or player symposium that he underwrote. And so part of it is that he invited a jeweler there that makes chains and all that stuff.
Right.
And he
Right.
kind of
Right.
and he had a financial advisor at the other end. So he told the guys, you can't buy a chain unless you take the same amount of money and put it over with the financial advisor. I'll tell you part two next week, but I know you got something else I want to hear.
Yeah. Yep. Spring training is right around the corner.
I thought it was here.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, yeah,
Wow.
it's here. It's here. The Yankee squad reports this week
Okay.
with some new faces.
Okay.
Pitcher Max Fried that they just signed, and they just got that closer, Devin Williams.
Wow.
So, you know, now rounding out the new faces reporting later are Cody Bellinger and first baseman Paul Goldschmidt that they acquired. Now the prospects coming in are, Jason Dominguez. He's going to try his hand at actually trying to play left field this time.
Mhm.
You know, and they're bringing in Spencer Jones, who's supposed to be the left-handed version of Aaron Judge.
That's
So
a that's a that's a lot to say, but okay.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, here's an interesting twist. Okay, Steven Moretz, he's a scout for the Padres,
Mhm.
and he's a diehard Chiefs fan.
Mhm.
And he was hoping that they would repeat.
Mhm.
And so in 2016, he signed a 19th round outfielder by the name of AJ Brown.
Really?
Yeah. And he watched him win a Super Bowl ring. So,
Wow.
he was a two-sport star at Starkville High School in Mississippi. And he
Mhm.
eventually chose football. So,
Wow. That's a great. You always come up with them nuggets. You always come up with those nuggets. Wow.
yeah, yeah. So the remaining free agents are Alex Bregman. He's still a free agent, and he's looking for a long-term deal.
Mhm.
But here's the thing with Scott Boras agents, clients these days, they seem to be coming down to the wire and getting into spring training unsigned.
Well, you don't know what that is? You want
Uh,
me to explain?
yeah, briefly.
Next week.
That's right. That's right. Next
I'll
week.
explain it. Yeah.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
All right, my
All
friend.
right.
Well, as we always say,
Stay in the
in the
game.
game. Smarterfan podcast. See you next week, family. Bye bye
All
now.
right. See you next week.
Smarterfan.